How to define multiple client-side controller actions? How to define multiple client-side controller actions? Right. Let us see these examples, everyone. Let us go to this. Jura attribute name, EMP name, type string. Jura attribute name, salary, right. So here we had lightning button, label equal to set, then value equal to c dot lightning button, label equal to cancel, value equal to so we have created a component with a couple of attributes and two buttons. Now we want to give variant. So what we want to give? Variant this. Or if you don't define anything, by default it will be neutral. If you don't define anything, by default it will be neutral. Okay. Now when you click on the button, I have a div here. So this is how we have defined names. Then I'm going for a client-side controller. Go to the client-side controller, show, and what is the other action? Cancel. I will define it as invoke. Action, comma, client-side controller action 1, comma, component. This is how I defined two action. That is saying component dot set v dot emp name salary. So when you invoke it, we had component dot set v dot emp name blank. Right. So this is how we have defined. So when you click on the first button, show. When you click on the second button, invoke. So how are you defining? Function 1 comma function 2. Function 1 comma function 2. Now if you want to run this, how do you run it? Invoke the application. Within the application, call this component. So I'll go for this lightning application. This is how we define. So go for the preview. Now why we are not getting these structures now? Right? So I need to give extends force. Now somebody is asking. Now attributes you can define anywhere. There's no question about. There is no problem about the location where you're defining. But the body, what you want to define, that should be as per your order. Attributes you can define on the top or bottom. It's okay. So go for the preview. So this is how we got it. We had this is how we got it. Set data. No, it is not setting the data. Not setting the data. What may be the problem? EMP name. V dot EMP name. Component set. Component set. V dot salary. Any spelling mistakes? What I gave? It's okay. It's a value, right? Blank value. It doesn't make it. It is going to accept both. Case sensitive somewhere. Check out. It's a value. So C dot show, C dot invoke, case sensitive EMP name, salary. EMP name small, EMP name V dot salary. EMP name V dot salary. Component dot set. Component dot set. Not necessary. Now I didn't say it's required, right? Did I say that it's required? I didn't say it's required. If I say it's required, then I need to understand it is a mandatory that I have to pass. But I didn't mention that it's a required some typo error somewhere. Nothing more than that. Once you have got practice to the Apex programming, was that controller button unknown token name. Now it is not invoking it. Button example 2 is not necessary. Already we displayed here. Name, listed name, salary. What was the bug here? Come again. So go back, have a preview. Method itself is not getting invoked. Handler is not required. We are going for writing button, right? So there is a reason why we are going for a button. Lightning button label. What is the bug? Basically everything is right here. Let me create one more component right out. Yeah. Skill. So I made a mistake here actually. It should be on a click. So I was using the Visual Force value here. Not only buttons. In this case, they're invoking it. Right? Okay. So the bug what I made here is I gave a value equal to so and so, but it was supposed to be on click. Right? On event, this is the action. So what happened? We have defined a component with two functions. Okay. Now if it is the same thing is a Visual Force, what will be the solution here? The moment I saved, it will throw an error message. Boss, your label is value is not expected to be given as a method. It should be a string. Right? As we are not having a predefined compiler, it is not throwing error message. So that's how we found it difficult to find out the error message here. Okay, fine. Coming back, we have defined a component with multiple buttons. When you click on the button, corresponding actions are invoked. I hope you are good with this example. Okay. Now let us go back to the second one. We are trying to understand the second lightning input component. Now we have taken attributes and we are reading the value. Now I don't want to read the values using attribute. I want to read the values from the input components. So how to create an input components and refer to the values. So what was the next element we are taking? Lightning input components. So let us go to the lightning input field. When you go to the lightning input, here they are going to specify lightning input. They are going to specify. Where was that? Type. Now default type is text, but what are the other types it is going to support? The other types in the sense, look at the format. Type equal to decimal, type equal to date, type equal to date, type equal to date time, type equal to such. Now look at this. Type equal to such, type equal to such with input hidden, value, label hidden, such we are getting on the top, label we are getting. Label is given, enter such, label with the box, label hidden, only box, spinner. When you click on a spinner, look at that. While it's loading, look at this. You'll be getting a circle loading time. Validating input in case if you want to validate. So maximum length. All these are what? Properties. Date input type equal to date, then input type equal to email, input type equal to radio, then we had what is that? Checkbox, input type equal to checkbox, input type equal to number. Are you getting my point? So type indicates what type of input text is this. By default, it is going to consider as text. Let us take some examples. First, let us see the example. Then I'll come back to the. Look at this. First, let us take some example, then I'll come back theory. So, lightning input label last name your ID ID of the element. How we are defining ID? Generally, in the Visual Force, how you define ID, but in the lightning, we are supposed to give your colon ID. Your ID. If you want to create a button, how do you create lightning button? Then create a application. Now, if you want to apply lightning, basic. So go back. So this is how we got last name, first name, label is printed on the top, label is on the printed on the top, then we are getting here. Label is printed on the top. Now type, if you want to hide the label, you can hide the label. So we are giving input text, placeholder. In the box we are getting a message, right? Last name. That is called placeholder. That is called placeholder. Now what we had, then let us take lightning input label active type then we had lightning input label input label lightning input label then font type label go back. So look at this date checkbox radio search. Are you getting my point here? Last one is not working here. Okay, label here. Are you getting my point? So how we are creating? So if you go to the documentation, if you look at this component, checkbox button, checkbox button, checkbox button, checkbox button. Let me give you checkbox button. So one by one example you see, but have you followed this format here? Basically input type, input lightning input type. In case if you want to go with a different format, you have to give it. Otherwise straight away we'll take it. So first let us do one basic example. I will take a form in which I am going to have last name, first name. When I click on that, it is going to print last name and first name together. And let us take a small calculation. How to read the values from input components in the client side controller. Previous example was what? Reading the value from a attribute. Now I want to create my own input components. From the input components, I want to read the value. I hope you are good with this. Okay. So let us go back to the next element. So how you define? Era ID. ID. Input. Okay. Now let us see. When I click on a button, how to read these elements in the client side control. Lightning button. So create a control. Now how do you read these values? By using the ID. By using the ID, you are supposed to read the values. By using the ID, how will you read the values of the component? By using the values, by using the ID, how will you read? Now if it is an attribute, I can say component dot get a v dot attribute. Now it is not an attribute, the value what is entered in the input component, I want to read it. So how do you read this? Listen carefully. Where component find component dot find the element whose id is LA. In the component, find the element whose id is LA. Find component dot find. In the component, find out the element whose id is LA dot get v dot where first name. Tell me how you write. Component dot find first name. Then after defining this, what you are supposed to set? Component dot find. What is the ID I gave? Dot set v dot value. Then I'm giving. This is how we create. So how we are referring? ID component dot find ID dot get dot set dot get v dot value dot set v dot value comma value. Now create an application. First instance. So this is how we are fetching them. So from the component, we are reading the value, we are setting the value. From the component, we are reading the value, setting the value based on ID. Based on ID. Right, boss? From the input component, based on the ID, how will you set the value? How will you read the value? From the input components, based on the ID, how will you set the values? How will you get the values? That is component dot find ID of the element dot get dot set. I hope you are good with this. Clear? Everyone has followed? Okay. Now let us do a basic example. Now create right. Now do this example. Now what we are supposed to do? Input type number. We are supposed to get input type number. Otherwise, by default, is going to take text. So text plus text is going to give concatenation of the value. It will append the value. It will not sum up. So what we are supposed to do? Take the input type equal to number. Right. Create this example, everyone. Let us create this example. First, we are creating the component. Sorry, it's supposed to go with lightning, right? Lightning input type equal to number, label URA ID, lightning input type number, result or whatever it is. Then we are supposed to go with lightning button, variant base, add on click. Lightning button, variant, on click, c dot, call, this is how we have defined lightning component with three input tags, three buttons. We have a controller. So how do you read the value? Where eval equal to component dot find get component dot find component dot set component dot find the same story I'm creating. Multiple methods. So here we are going to say, now when you say reset dot set value dot set when you say reset, we are resetting the value, right boss? Get the values, set the values. Now we are supposed to create application. If you want to use force extends, we can go with extends force SLDS. Now I have used variant as base, so we didn't get any borders here. Now what was the format here? Now even though we specified number, it is considering as what? So it is considering as a string. So what I was supposed to do? Parse int of a value, parse int of b value. Convert the string into integer values. Parse int. Parse the value into integer, then use it. Basic JavaScript functionality, right, boss? So we have created an input component. Then we have assigned the IDs for the component. Based on the IDs, we are reading the values. Any query on this? Am I clear with this? Come again. Then you need to give label separately, box without label. Okay. Then you need to give a box. There is no label. Now you need to organize it by using a tables or structures, and you have to define it. You need to organize. So let us say I am giving here so we are taking this, we are supposed to create a table structure and organize first component, second component. Okay. So fine, let us go to that will come along with the based on the place where we are fitting up, automatically it is adjusted. Now, if you are supposed to specify the width and height, if you don't specify the place where we are fitting this data, according to that it is auto resized. It is a responsive pages. It is a responsive page. It is a responsive page based on the location where you are fitting this data. As per that, the size will be automatically adjusted. It is a responsive. So I hope you are clear with this format. Right. Now let us see the basic theoretical format. So I hope you are good enough with this component, right? So let us see the theoretical format. Redefine a component under the namespace of this component will have built-in CSS. What are the attributes? First, type. What is the type? Type will specify type of data we are input, we are export. Possible values. What are the possible values you are taken? Number, text, date, then date time, in checkbox, then you have search without label. There will be a lot of attributes here, boss. Checkbox button. So toggle. You'll be finding this type of button, toggle, right? On off. This type is toggle. This type is toggle. Radio button. Then we have search, toggle, search, label hidden, search, toggle. Then we had we have type search, then we had a type submit. Got the type here. What is the type here? Required max length is okay. Now basically we have taken time. We want time. Type equal to time. Then we had URL. Type equal to URL. Type equal to email. Type equal to checkbox. So let us go back to other one. URL. These are the types. Then what is the next one we had? Label. This is a string. This will be displayed on the top of then we have value. If you want to refer to, right now I didn't refer the variable or attribute. Straight away I referred with ID. Now if you want to, whatever the value we are entering, if you want to assign to attribute, whatever the value we have in the attribute, if you want to read it, then we'll use value. Value entered the box. Store. Value. This will take attribute name. In which from which the value has to be set target. Then ID of the element. Then we have variant. If you want to apply any specific variants here, what are the specific variants here? Now we can see without search input, without label hidden. So variant is label hidden. Max length. Now what else we can give? Variant. Variant. In case if you want to apply any variants to this, we'll go for this. Now let us see specification. What are the values of variants we have? Variant changes. So what is the variant we have given? Label hidden. So variants are include standard and label hidden. Standard and label hidden. So we have variants. Possible values are default values. Then what are the other things we had? Max length, min length, you are able to find here. Disable, we can disable the box. We can set the read only. Disable. This is a Boolean value. Then read only. Right. You want to make the page as a read only. The name itself say what it is. Then what it is required. Tab index. The name itself say what they are. The name itself say what they are. Right. So what we have? The next we had min length. What is it? Maximum number of characters allowed in the field. Minimum length of the characters. max length, min length. In case if you want to apply any validation rule here, straight away we can give as a pattern. In case if you want to apply validation on the pattern of right, boss. Rest of the properties are clear with your name, right? So what is that? Read only, required, tab index, max length, min length. These are the properties, right? I hope everyone is good with this. So I'll just copy one example here. You can go through it. So tomorrow we'll see